What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show today. It is Thursday, January 7th, 2021. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. Sure happy it's Thursday. And we've got a lot to talk about today. As usual, we're going to go through the news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. I'm expecting a lot of phone calls today, given recent events here. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. So let's just get right on into it. Obviously, the aftermath of yesterday's obviously staged riot in Washington, D.C. Is continuing, and more evidence is surfacing that it was a propaganda stunt to discredit the Trump supporters. Again, we're looking at this young lady, Ashley Babbitt, 14-year veteran of the United States Air Force, married, 35 years old, and was basically just standing behind the people who were trying to get into the building when she was shot by the Capitol Police. And there were police behind her, and they indicating they did not consider her an immediate threat. But somebody opened fire on her. That officer has yet to be identified. Meanwhile, of course, everybody's out there saying, well, it's all the fault of Trump supporters. It's all the fault of Donald Trump himself. If she hadn't been here, she wouldn't have been done. There are even posts all over saying that she deserved it for being there, which I think is about as callous as you can get here. And over on Facebook, as a matter of fact, they're allowing Ashley Babbitt's page to be just loaded up by leftists celebrating her death. And then they turned around and banned a news outlet for daring to criticize the shooting. This was Information Liberation got banned for writing a post saying that shooting her was wrong. She didn't have a weapon. She didn't present a threat. And I'm in agreement with that. There was no reason for gunfire to have happened whatsoever. So anyway, the police of the Washington, D.C. Police has acknowledged 4 people died. There was the woman who was shot. The other 3 are being described as medical emergencies, but there is a report that one of them was actually a suicide that took place right there in the middle of the protest. We're waiting for confirmation on that one, and hopefully that will be shortly forthcoming here. Another video showed police actually push a protester off a balcony at the D.C. Capitol. And that was caught, on video, and it was just an ugly situation here. Excuse me, story coming on out from cuzblue.com. More and more evidence is surfacing that some individuals in the Capitol were not Trump supporters, and we know that Antifa was being bussed in. They were met with a police escort. There's a video that's out there now. It's at whatreallyhappened.com showing the police opening the barricades to let the Antifa people who are wearing MAGA hats and shirts and everything into the Capitol here. And there's another video that somebody actually caught Antifa, Black Lives Matter, being bussed in for the rally with the police escort. So this whole thing was a staged propaganda stunt here. And so the video surfaced showing law enforcement in Washington, D.C., pardon me, escorting chartered Antifa buses into the Capitol just days before the Trump rally on January 6th. The footage was uploaded to YouTube. Of course, it was immediately taken down, and it has since been put up on Brighteon, where people can see it and link to it and download it onto your hard drive. I mean, right now, the corporate social media, they're absolutely coming down hard on everybody that is criticizing or questioning what happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday. And so if you've got the room on your hard drive, this might be the time to start archiving some of this material for future use. Another story, this one coming out of the Geller report, showing Antifa infiltrators stormed the Capitol building. This was deliberate. It was an orchestrated distraction, and it was not too long ago that somebody actually acquired an Antifa flyer, calling on Antifa to be at the Capitol, to wear Trump clothing to blend in. But the signal was they were going to wear their MAGA hats backward so they could identify each other in the crowd. Now, one of the figures that has come out in the reporting on the riots at the Capitol building has been nicknamed the Viking. And he was this guy wearing a horned helmet and dressed in furry outfits, and he had face paint. And he was supposed to be one of these Trump supporters that was trashing the place. But apparently earlier this year, he was photographed at a Black Lives Matter rally wearing the same outfit and almost the same identical face paint. And of course, it's very obvious. He's got tattoos that are visible in both photos. And this Viking guy is obviously an insider. In fact, there's another photo where he's posing with Michael Voss, who just happens to be Nancy Pelosi's son-in-law. So it's just really, again, just like they botched hiding the election theft from the American people, they're botching this propaganda stunt. The word is getting on out there. And speaking of Nancy Pelosi, remember when there were the riots in Hong Kong where they smashed up everything? There was a lot more damage that was done. And Nancy Pelosi said that storming legislatures was a beautiful thing to behold. And she was all in favor of the Hong Kong rioters. Well, obviously not how she feels when it comes to Washington, D.C. here. Some Russiagate Democrats are insisting that Vladimir Putin was responsible for the crowd that stormed the U.S. Capitol. They're blaming all kinds of people, white separatists, white males, white privilege. They're just out there, screaming about, who's to blame, except, of course, for the Democrats themselves and Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Story coming on out of Hideout Now. A former FBI agent on the ground at the U.S. Capitol says at least one busload of Antifa thugs infiltrated the Trump demonstration. And from the video that I mentioned before, there were more of those as well. Another article, this one is coming out of the Gateway Pundit. It's quoting some of the people who were on the ground there, saying we had no weapons, we were peaceful, they just started shooting at us. The police attacked the protesters with pepper spray, tear gas, and clubs, and the police just went totally violent very, very quickly. They knew ahead of time that their goal was to basically beat this down. And then as soon as the corporate media was done making the necessary videotapes and photographs of it, they were going to go home. And again, looking at the left out on social media, it's all over Twitter, calls for retribution. And apparently accounts bearing Twitter's stamp of approval, the blue verified check mark, are calling for Trump supporters to just simply be shot. Now, Breitbart News asked them, what is going on with this? And Twitter said, we'll continue to enforce our rules, including our policy against violent threats. But apparently that is not happening. Rod Blackhurst, a director who has worked on a number of titles for Netflix, just came on out and said, please just blank shoot them all. So I don't think this is going to end with what happened yesterday. I think we're in a calm before a real storm. And over at the White House, Trump is apparently very angry at what happened in the Congress yesterday. He feels that Pence betrayed him. And apparently President Trump has banned Pence's chief of staff from the White House. He's not allowed on the White House grounds. Now, President Trump has basically said he's promising an orderly transition on January 20th, following Congress certifying Biden's win. And, he's out there, saying what he needs to be saying here. But apparently a lot of the GOP lawmakers who were going to object to the electors dropped their objections because of yesterday's unrest. And that, of course, was probably one of the reasons why Antifa caused a ruckus. In fact, on Fox News earlier today, they had somebody who claims to be an expert saying that yesterday's unrest has destroyed the Republican Party. I hardly think so. It was definitely a staged false flag event. Now, apparently, the deep state is not satisfied to allow Trump to end his term on the 20th of this month. He's still got 2 weeks to go. And might be capable of more mischief. And so there are calls for President Trump to be immediately removed, either through impeachment or invoking the 25th Amendment. And all of the Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee wrote a letter to Vice President Trump urging him to invoke the 25th Amendment. And Pence might go along with it because at least for 2 weeks, he would get to be the president of the United States, and go right into the history books for that one here. So another report on the same topic, this is coming from the Daily Wire. Trump's own cabinet is considering removing him from office, and already a lot of the White House aides are resigning. They're going to get out there and get their resumes out there before all the really tasty jobs are taken. And apparently CBS News and ABC News are reporting that cabinet secretaries had started talking about the idea, but say it has not been formally presented to Vice President Mike Pence here. Apparently Stephanie Grisham, who's the top aide to First Lady Melania, has also resigned. It's a lot of turmoil over there. And social media is still out there playing their censorship games. Twitter has deleted President Trump's video calling for peace because in it, he says, yes, the election was stolen, but it's now time to go home, which I think is about as magnanimous as you can get. So Twitter locked out the account and threatened a permanent suspension unless the offending video was removed. Now, apparently, Instagram is joining not just Twitter, but Facebook, suspending President Trump's account for 24 hours. And Facebook deleted the 1.7 million member group, Joe Biden is not my president, with no warning and no explanation. So you're seeing the face of the dictatorship right in front of you. In fact, there's an article on this very subject that came out of Zero Hedge. The failure to contain big tech is the biggest single failure of 2020. They are totally out of control. They see themselves as running the country and certainly running what you think. And they still have their immunity. Trump was not able to get a repeal of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, and so they can do whatever they want with the traffic going through their sites with impunity. Now, this, of course, has led to all kinds of new competition, which I think is a good thing. I stopped using Twitter and Facebook, this time last year because of all that was going on here. Now, getting on down to Georgia, story coming on out of Blabberbuzz, basically saying that the Democrats pulled off a Georgia Senate victory in a night that resembled the general election back in November. Now, Democrat John Ossoff has claimed victory over Georgia Republican David Perdue, even though the race supposedly remains too close to call. But again, it was a sweep down there, and the Senate will now be under Democratic control with, a Democrat sitting as president of the Senate. Anyway, apparently there's been two clips. Remember, I think it was just yesterday, or may have been Monday, where somebody captured on the TV where Perdue had 32,000 votes vanish from his total. And apparently somebody else also got that. The video is posted up there. And yeah, that's, you know, obviously enough of a vote drop to tilt the race toward the Democrats. So again, they're still cheating because nobody is out there able to stop them here. Jim Jordan is out there saying that Americans instinctively know there was something wrong with this election. I don't think most Americans are relying on their instincts. I think more and more Americans are tuning in to independent media, and they're looking at the evidence for themselves. But there is absolutely no question this was the crookedest election in United States history. And unfortunately, it signals dark times ahead. Because first of all, in order to secure their control over the country, we can expect the liberals to just come down absolutely hard on the American people in general. They're going to try and put that Bill of Rights in the shredder, especially the Second Amendment, especially the First Amendment. More about that later in the program. You know, we're turning into the new Soviet Union here. Now, the Democrats have released their white list, or rather their wish list of what they want to accomplish with a Democratic White House and a Democratic Senate. And it's, you know, it's really draconian out there. And again, Democrats have called for new voting rights legislation. Ever since the 2013 decision canceled parts of the Voting Rights Acts of 1965, dealing with federal error of some rules. So they want to go on out and change the rules again to have it all work in their favor. Mitch McConnell was hindering a vote on the $2,000 stimulus checks to Americans, even though President Trump press them to pass them. Well, now that Biden is in, they're going to go ahead with the $2,000 stimulus checks so that everybody will be grateful to Joe Biden. I don't know how well that's going to work when you look at Joe Biden's new tax increases, which will hit the average middle-class family for an additional $2,000 per year. So it's not like you're really gaining all that much. Over in the world of corporate media, C-SPAN has reinstated Steve Scully. Now, remember that Steve Scully came under some criticism last October when he admitted he lied about his Twitter account being hacked and some very inflammatory material being posted there. But apparently all is now forgiven at C-SPAN, and he is back on board there. Officers involved in the Jacob Blake shooting vindicated by the evidence. And yesterday, news outlets, journalists, and influencers, on Tuesday, said Jacob Blake was unarmed. There was evidence to the contrary. But apparently, there is video showing that, yes, he was armed. It was described as lawful but awful, which I agree with that as well. All righty, we're coming up on a break here. Let's get into COVID-19. They're pushing that now on the corporate media. They want you to forget all about, you know, the questions about what happened yesterday, and so they're back to COVID-19 numbers are up. The British mutation is coming to eat you, and the fear-mongering is proceeding apace here. But Amazon is now selling an FDA-approved at-home test for coronavirus that will produce results in less than 72 hours. It's $110 each. Now, over in Norway, apparently patients who received their first dose of the corona vaccine died shortly afterwards at a Norwegian nursing home. And apparently the departed were among the first in the country to receive the Pfizer vaccine, BioNTech vaccine here. And medical authorities are saying they're going to investigate the circumstances to try and figure out what exactly happened. And they're really trying to look into whether the vaccine was the cause of death. Of course, here in America, corporate media is saying, no, absolutely not. These people were going to die anyway. All right, we got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. And again, a friendly reminder as we head into 2021, which is already shaping up to be even crazier than 2020. Republic Broadcasting Network needs your help and financial support to keep on trying to get information, facts out to the American people so that they can make good choices. So once again, the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 724-2719, extension 3. And all of this contact information is up at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. Okay, we're talking about COVID-19, and down in Florida, apparently there was this perfectly healthy Miami doctor, 56 years old, who died of a blood disorder just 16 days after getting the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. His wife is certain it was triggered by the jab, and apparently Pfizer is saying, yes, we have to take a look at this and see if there's really a problem. So it's it's just ugly out there here. Over in Spain, authorities intervene as elderly residents suffers COVID outbreak after getting the vaccine. And apparently it's not just Spain, it's a number of European states. They're rolling out vaccination efforts. But apparently in the Domus v Costa d'Emblanes residence for the elderly in Calvia, Mallorca, apparently after screening on the 3rd of January, they found a COVID outbreak. And there have been people saying they're coming down with COVID symptoms after getting the shot. That's what happened to my doctor. So again, this is really an untested technology, this mRNA stuff. And, it sounds good in theory, but with a rush job, it's really scary. Now, over at the Pentagon, apparently they have done a study showing that the shot for the seasonal flu will raise your risk of coronavirus by 36%. Now, to me, this suggests that the epidemiologist we were talking about earlier in the week is correct, that a lot of the so-called COVID-19 cases are actually influenza. And so it's just crazy out there here. All righty, now a little bit of good news, because there are a lot of people who don't want the vaccine, and again, there are international laws, treaties, Nuremberg, so forth and so on, saying that people cannot be forced to undergo medical treatment without their informed consent. And there's a lot of people who are very informed saying, I don't consent. So there are all these coercive measures being applied. You can't go to shopping, you can't go to sporting events, and even worse, you can't go to your job. The employers are saying you will have to have the vaccine to work here. But apparently there has been a lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court of California by Greg Glaser and Ray Flores. And basically they presented results of a pilot study showing that unvaccinated adults and children are healthier than their vaccinated counterparts, and they're seeking to protect Americans from discrimination based on vaccination status. And I hope they do well, but with this corrupt court system, I don't know. It's just totally gone under. Now, California right now is under some of the strictest controls in the nation. Arizona has a statewide curfew, among other restrictions. Rhode Island has extended its lockdown orders until January 28th. Here in Indiana, we're now at stage red, which is the top level, and we're trying to see exactly what that implies for the Hoosiers that are going to have to live with it here. Getting on back out to California, apparently a quarter of Los Angeles residents, 2.4 million people, live in what are called pharmacy deserts. They don't have close access to pharmacy services. Well, I'm sure there's a business opportunity there. and we'll see what happens. The CDC is admitting that at least 21 Americans have suffered life-threatening allergic reactions to Pfizer's COVID vaccine, but they're saying still get the shot because the problems are rare. You know, it's only a tiny, tiny percentage probability that you're going to die from this shot. And you need to go back over to the FDA and read their list of 27 possible adverse reactions to this vaccination, some of which may not manifest for weeks, if not months. This thing is just absolutely turning into a disaster here. Now, this is a little bit alarming. Earlier in the show, I was talking about getting rid of the First Amendment, and this may be the first shot or the justification. Okay, I got to take another break for commercials. Going to talk about this when we come back. Welcome back to our show here, and we're talking about COVID-19 and what may be the lever to basically get rid of the First Amendment right to freedom of expression here. And apparently there is this zealotry regarding COVID-19, and we are seeing calls to actually silence anybody who's skeptical of COVID-19 or the vaccines. Apparently, Keir Starmer, appearing on ITV's Good Morning Britain, said, "We have to deal with the anti-vax campaigns because they will cost lives, and if we need to pass emergency legislation to deal with them, I would be prepared to work with the government on that." And basically, he tried to compare this to wartime, you know, when obviously there was strict restrictions on freedom of speech here. So that's going to be coming here to the United States of America very, very soon. That's going to be the excuse to put limits on the First Amendment. But again, you know, we're dealing with a government that has made some horrendous mistakes in the past. I mean, they told us thalidomide was safe, you know, so, and they told us the swine flu vaccine was safe in 1976. So we need those voices out there that say, wait a minute, what about this set of facts here? Over in New York, and this is getting even a little scarier, they've got a new law, they're under consideration, that would allow authorities to take anyone suspected of having or being exposed to a contagious disease, in this case COVID-19, and hold them indefinitely, even forcibly medicating them. And apparently under the new law, if it's passed, New Yorkers may be dragged out of their homes and locked up on the mere suspicion of having been exposed to COVID-19. No positive test or even symptoms necessary. I mean, how Kafkaesque can you get? It's insane. And other states apparently are looking at similar laws. And what a good way to cull the American people of independent thinkers. Oh, you're an independent thinker. Well, you've been exposed to COVID-19. Come along peacefully. Over in Great Britain, apparently Scotland Yard officials have announced the adoption of a new hardline lockdown policy to stop and question people if they are out on the street, and to issue on-the-spot fines if they cannot provide a reasonable excuse for being out of their houses. Now, this is coming from the London Telegraph, and they're reporting London's Metropolitan Police issued a statement noting that with fewer reasonable excuses for people to be away from their homes and the regulations, Londoners can expect officers to be more inquisitive as to why they see them out and about. So, I mean, this is, you know, talk about dictatorship here. Now, here is a story. This is coming on out of Zero Hedge, and I'm not sure I buy this one here. Apparently, there is a YouGov survey, and according to Statista's Martin Armstrong, 79% of the British subjects say they support a nationwide lockdown to some degree. And I'm not sure that I actually believe the number is that high. Meanwhile, the British supermarket chain Asda is urging customers to shop considerately and not stockpile. Remember earlier the year, the fury over the toilet paper and everything that was going on here. Okay, so let's turn to the international news now. On Tuesday, the United States Navy released a report called A Strategic Blueprint for the Arctic. And what they're calling for is a confrontation with Russia and China in the Arctic. Oh, goody, we're going to start shooting up polar bears now. The strategy fits in with the U.S. military's focus away from counterterrorism in the Middle East, because that hasn't really worked out all that well, towards, great power competition. So that's setting the stage. Again, we're rushing towards a world war, and it's going to get really ugly. Article coming out of Palladium Mag. China's real threat is to America's ruling ideology. And there's talk about taking the current economic war with China and transforming it into a culture war. And basically saying, in the short version is China won't do what the United States tells it to do, which is an unforgivable sin to Washington, D.C. Over in Syria, apparently the Turkish army is concerned over a possible Russian advance on Syria's Al-Bab. And the Turks have been increasing their presence in greater Idlib, despite the recent withdrawal of observation posts, which had been encircled by the Syrian army. They're still fighting on over there. The new year is off to a bloody start in the West Bank. Apparently, Israeli soldiers are still using lethal force against Palestinians who are unarmed and not a threat. And apparently a Palestinian man was shot dead at a settlement road junction near the West Bank city of Bethlehem on Tuesday. Now, the military claimed that the dead man, identified as Ahed Rahman, rented lips, Kaukas, had thrown a knife at soldiers, but witnesses are saying that no, that didn't happen. Anyway, little interesting development. Apparently, two right-wing Israeli parties have signed a vote-sharing agreement in what appears to be an effort to sideline Netanyahu's Likud in the upcoming election. And so, Netanyahu is definitely past his sell-by date here. And the move was signed by the leader of the Yamina Party, Naftali Bennett, and Gideon Sa'ar, the founder of the Tikva Hadha New Hope Party, who recently resigned from the Likud. Netanyahu may be in a little bit of trouble there. Now, here is a very interesting story that is coming out of Zero Hedge here. At the moment when everybody was watching the protests at the U.S. Capitol building and all the violence and everything, Israel again attacked Syria, hitting southern Damascus with a series of airstrikes. And this is the third such strike in 3 weeks. But what really strikes me as odd is that Israel seemed to know ahead of time that things were going to go wild in Washington, D.C., and that nobody would be paying attention to what they're doing. Well, wrong. We're paying attention, and we will continue to do so. Now, Sudan yesterday signed the Abraham Accords with the United States, paving the way for Sudan to normalize ties with Israel. So they're definitely getting Israel what it wants, which is recognition as a state, while denying Palestine the exact same right. Over in Iran, they have showcased their new suicide drones during a large-scale UAV combat exercise. It was a 2-day exercise in Saman province, and in coastal waters. It started Tuesday, ended today, and according to the Iranian Army chief, Admiral Mahmoud Mousavi, naval drones will fly from warships in the country's southern waters, while suicide UAVs will additionally conduct long-range sorties. Now, underscoring the nature of the exercise as a show of strength at a moment U.S. forces in the region, including the Nimitz, Mousavi emphasized that the Islamic Republic of Iran is one of the able and most powerful countries in the field of drone production. And of course, hacking that American drone and getting that technology didn't hurt them on that. All right, South Korea has sent the destroyer Choi Young to patrol in the Persian Gulf following Iran's seizure of a South Korean flagged tanker in the waters. Now, Iran claimed the tanker was guilty of environmental violations. South Korea wants it back. And so they're out there rattling their sabers. Meanwhile, over in Korea, a U.S. spy plane, an EP-3E Ares II, flew over two cities in South Korea and then flew out to the Yellow Sea. This is all along the demilitarized zone. And this was the day after North Korea kicked off its party Congress. So they're trying to send a message there. Now, over in China, they are getting ready to deploy their DF-17 hypersonic missiles, and apparently their transporter erector launcher has received a stealth camouflaged cover that makes it more challenging for the U.S. and allies to identify via reconnaissance satellites. And of course, they can put out decoy trucks at the same time to confuse the situation. So they're basically getting ready to go there. And according to the video, the transporter has a hypersonic missile encased in a shell as it traverses desert terrain. Okay, let's get into the economic news now here. And apparently last year, retail investors outperformed the hedge funds by 14 to 1. Well, that's bad news for the hedge funds here and all those instant billionaires that seem to happen from that. Manhattan is seeing a major population decline. And apparently Frank Gehry's 76-story Inception luxury apartment building has vacancies have surged 26%. Hundreds of units are unoccupied. New Yorkers are heading for cheaper cities amid the pandemic, and I certainly understand that. I mean, Claire and I, even after a year, we're still shocked at how much less expensive things are here than they were in Hawaii. And so a lot of people are getting out of the highly taxed Democratic areas, and they're flooding into more conservative, fiscally responsible states like Indiana. Meanwhile, the New York Stock Exchange has gone through yet another reversal and said it will delist 3 of China's largest telecommunication companies to comply with President Trump's executive order he signed in November. And they're delisting China Mobile Limited, China Telecom Corp Limited, China Unicom Hong Kong. They did that on New Year's Eve. Then they said Monday they were reversing the decision. Then they reversed again, and they're going ahead with delisting the companies. Okay, let's see. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, this strange situation where apparently 1.8 billion with a B dollars was sent from Vatican to Australia. And the Vatican has now officially responded to that, saying, we have no knowledge of this money. We don't have that kind of money. Well, that's a lie there. They certainly do here. And apparently there's scandals and irregularities at the Vatican Bank continue to emerge, with the latest being the disappearance of the 1.8 billion. Let's see. Trying to remember his name. Roberto Calvi. Remember him? He'd been president of the Vatican Bank. They found his body hanging under London Bridge in London some years ago. We're seeing predictions now. This is from Goldcore. Gold will reach $2,300 and silver $35 by the end of 2021. I think they may be rather pessimistic. I'm hearing other people saying that gold is going to break 3,000. So, you know, buy now while it's still low and then hang on to it, because we're going to see some economic problems here. Meanwhile, New York is so desperate for tax revenues that Governor Andrew Cuomo announced yesterday they're going to legalize recreational marijuana because they're expecting it will generate $300 million in tax revenue. And, you know, remember when we were all told, you know, marijuana is bad, Remember Reefer Madness? We had to watch that in school. But now the government has decided drugs are good as long as they can be taxed. Same with alcohol, same with cigarettes, same with anything else the American people want. Now, yesterday we were talking about how Bill Gates is pushing the lab-grown meat and over farm production, possibly being part of a plan to industrialize and commercialize all food production so that we become dependent on corporations simply to eat. And supporting that story is another story coming out of The Guardian, where apparently the Ice Age Farmer Channel is reporting claims of localized chicken culls in Great Britain focused on these small or medium producers. Now, the official story is this is in response to the bird flu, but observers are saying this is a directed move against independent sources of food. Over in New York, they have proposed a new bill that would ban body armor. It makes possession a crime, and if you already have body armor in New York, it's not going to be grandfathered in. You will have to turn it in or face arrest. So it's another indication that they are very, very much afraid of the American people. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. And a little bit of news here, a little bit of good news in the science news. Over at the Arecibo Observatory, Puerto Rico has committed $8 million to its reconstruction. Now, it's going to take a little bit more than that, obviously, but they're going to pay for the demolition of what remains of the telescope and to at least get started on a reconstruction. And I'm sure there'll be other people donating to rebuild that observatory. Meanwhile, China, because of the collapse of Arecibo, is going to allow foreign astronomers to use its 1,600-foot radio telescope. And it's designed very much like the Arecibo telescope, except it's considerably larger, and it's called the 500-meter aperture spherical radio telescope, or FAST for short, and it is absolutely, absolutely huge. All right, getting into computers and such, internet security firm FireEye has revealed the enormous SolarWinds hack that left upwards of 250 agencies and businesses unprotected for weeks was launched from inside the United States, which hasn't stopped the corporate media from blaming Moscow for it. Now, the mega hack, which affected 250 networks, went undetected by Washington security systems because it originated within the United States. But unfortunately, again, blame Moscow, blame Moscow, blame Moscow. Apparently, Microsoft's email system was also breached. Okay, we got to take a break here. The phone lines are open. Call on in, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here. And again, the phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. And we're going to get back to some news here. There's a lot of obviously fraudulent criminal activity out there on the internet, and you need to be aware of it. Something that Claire and I both experienced over this last week is we got a text message that was addressed to our phone numbers and some 20 other. I think there's an upper limit on how many people can be on a single message that simply had a link which went to a porn website. And apparently the porn website is trying to plant some kind of malware on smartphones here. There's also apparently a phishing email. I'm sorry, it's another text here. It's a PayPal text message, or it appears to be a PayPal text message saying your account is limited, and then it gives you a link that you're supposed to click to reestablish your PayPal account. That too is also fake as well. All right, we're going to go to the phones here to Bruce in Texas. Hello, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, hello, Mike. You know, you're right on target there. I can see you get around a lot. It's false of liberals, you know, lack of a better term, and their vicious hatred and reveling in the blood over a woman being shot in the Capitol. It's disgusting, and it's actually quite revealing too. You know.
Okay, Bruce, I'm going to ask you to put the microphone closer to your mouth because we can hardly hear you.
Is that any better?
Yeah, it's much better. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the Capitol shooting. You know, people are celebrating. I've been seeing that, and it's real disturbing. I mean, it's like a mind infected with just hatred and poison.
Yeah.
I mean, it's satanic, just about. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And why hasn't the name of this officer? I heard it was a Secret Service agent. I heard it was Capitol Police. Supposedly a black man who shot a white woman in the throat, and she was unarmed. And we don't know his name. We knew Kavanaugh's name that very same day. You know, rule of law is out the window.
Yes, it is.
It's tyranny. It's straight up tyranny. I remember when Barack Obama, tyranny's not going to come to the United States. Well, he was full of it. It's right in our face right now.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thanks a lot, and let you continue with the show, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And actually, we're almost to the station break. So I'm going to do a little more news. We've got another caller waiting here. Apparently, and I may be mispronouncing this, Zyxel firewalls, VPN gateways, apparently have a backdoor account that was discovered by a team of Dutch security researchers from iControl, and they consider it as bad as it gets in terms of vulnerabilities, because obviously if that backdoor account is known to evil people like the government, they can come into your system whenever they feel like it and do all kinds of problems. Okay, there's the music here. We're going to take a break for station identification. More phone calls when we come back. Welcome back to our show here. Hour number 2, the phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. We're going to go back to the phones to JR in Georgia. Hello, JR. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Good afternoon, Mike. There was a old tradition here in the South, back when newspapers existed. And whenever a family member died and the obituary was put into the local paper, a lot of people in the South used to cut those out and place them in their family Bibles.
Okay.
Just that newspaper, most newspapers do not exist anymore. Many of us should take the time out, fill out a postcard, and write a very small letter identifying January 6, 2021 as the date the Republic of the United States of America died.
Yes.
And send it by way of the United States Post Office so it's dated and stamped as such.
Mm-hmm.
And these individuals who receive them keep the envelope, keep the postcard or the letter that was written, and place it in their personal Bible. Because what we just seen, we are now officially a banana republic.
Yes, we are.
No disguising it, no getting around it. We have no venue to take our grievances to. I've heard some of the major radio commentators, Glenn Beck, Rush Limbaugh, who are vehemently against what happened yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Those people that entered the Capitol, some of them were probably Antifa or BLM, however you wish to identify them. But there was also Trump supporters who got emotionally involved and got sucked up into the emotion of the event and probably did enter the halls of Congress. But that is a reflection of the anger
Yes.
that the American people feel in regards to their voice being heard. We have voted and we have voted and we have voted, and nothing has changed. I do not know what the answer is at this particular point in time. What I do understand is that there's going to be much wailing and gnashing of teeth in the next year.
Yes, I agree.
Based on what the Democrats have said, what they wanted to accomplish. And this is very similar to the Muslim wars that we have fought. When they say something, they mean it. Don't disregard it. They mean exactly what they say. Don't try to candy coat it. They mean exactly what they're saying. And now that they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, believe you me, they are going to follow up with the promises that they have made.
Yes, they are.
The only thing I can say this evening, as I really don't have a lot to contribute to your show, except for my personal opinion.
That's
we as
good thing to contribute.
Is many people have said not to boycott. Well, folks, your first line of defense right now is boycotting certain major companies. Cut off the cash flow. And that's starting off. Whether it has an effect or not, I do not know. But strip the cable network. Get rid of it. This is how they have survived. The entertainment industry, the sports industry of this country has controlled the mind thought of the entire country. You cannot watch TV at this particular date and time without seeing people wearing masks.
Mm-hmm.
The over-influence of interracial relationships, and I'm not going to judge that, but the major media corporations, which is about 5 or 6 companies, have been flooding the advertisement market, the entertainment market, for quite some time. You're going to have to remove yourself from that context and maybe convince your family, your friends to do as well. Because I know a lot of people have spoken about a civil war. Well, folks, it ain't going to be a civil war.
War is never civil.
No, it's not. And it's going to be vigilantism. It's going to be street by street, city by city, town by town. We do not have anyone on what we would identify as the conservative side that's willing to put up the cash to compete against the Soros, Hollywood China, and all the other media corporations. No one is stepping forward. The only one that has ever voiced a rebellious statement is the guy who owns Tesla.
Yes.
He's the only one with major bucks that can support a retaliation against what's happening against the good Americans in this country.
Yes.
I pray for this country. I do not know what God's will for this country is. All I can tell you and your listeners, I'm tired and angry as all of you are. Search the Word for some truth and strength. because we're about to go on a Disney ride none of us could have ever imagined. And I would like to thank you for your time, Mike.
Well, thank you for the phone call. You've made a lot of really good points, and you're right. Things are going to get very ugly from here because the government is no longer accountable to the American people, and the American people now know it. The government knows we know it, and that's why I think we're just going to see this hard smash down, onto the American public in general to take away our civil liberties and our rights. And it's not going to be pleasant. Anyway, thank you for the call, and we're going to switch over to Joe in Tennessee. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
First, I'd like to say something. Dustin very much disappointed me yesterday, calling using the term conspiracy theory. Especially a guy like Dustin, who is a bit of a skeptic. Conspiracy theorists like me and him, except that the targets of his skepticism aren't usually people in power that can use the term conspiracy theorist to silence you. It's only when you go against, like the system or the New World Order type, the government with the Kennedy, then you can use the term conspiracy theorist. But if you question like Trump and this and that, the approved targets, they never call you a conspiracy theorist. So I would like to see, if I had a radio show, the minute somebody said the word conspiracy theorist as a way to like shut something down, I would just hang up the phone on him. And I'm not saying that Dustin should be censored. I just think that that term is just used in a dangerous way. It's almost like a censoring way, let's not go there. And I don't, personally, I just get offended whenever I hear it, because it's a term that's meant to shut down, the truth is what it is. So I'm very disappointed in him, but I'm not surprised because I've actually, I figured him out with his COVID and all his other things. By the way, my dog has COVID, I think,
Oh, okay.
So what am I going to do? She's acting a little lethargic. But, I came up with a term, I'm sure people have heard it, but preemptive self-defense. Lately I've been hearing a lot, like on TV, you see Keith Olbermann and you hear Barbara Streisand, all these like people, Joe Scarborough, they're talking about like arresting people and shooting people on site, Trump supporters. Well, there comes a point where Trump supporters should use preemptive self-defense. If you see any of these people like walking around or something, they mean to do you harm. They are saying it publicly. They want to shoot Trump supporters on site. So I just wonder, like in court, if you shoot them, so before they attempt to shoot you, they're saying they're going to shoot you. So I just, I wonder, like, if they could, like, if that's criminal. Don't we have a right to defend ourselves? Where does
Yes, we do. That's what the Second Amendment is all about.
Well, yeah, I know. I just find it kind of odd. Like these people, they must think they're like untouchable because they're actually 80 million Trump supporters. Maybe 10% of those would be capable of like putting them in their place, if they run across them. And I just would love to have one of their cars break down here near me in Tennessee because I would defend myself preemptively, because I've heard them threaten to shoot on sight Trump supporters. And I just think that that's something that people should keep in mind if they see any of these people. You were talking about some producer out there in his little bubble in Hollywood. They love just, I'm just curious, like maybe we have to go there just to prevent them from coming here. Maybe we have to find out their addresses and preemptively self-defense, because
I'm getting very uncomfortable with the direction that you're going. I understand what you're saying, but it seems to me that, setting aside the phraseology here, you're now calling for the same thing that Keith Olbermann and the others are calling for, only going in the other direction. And I don't want anybody shooting anybody on site.
No, I never threatened Keith Olbermann until he said he wanted to shoot me. So I never said to shoot anybody, but I have to protect my own life because I'm a Trump supporter, and they said to shoot Trump supporters on site. So that's my point about it being preemptive self-defense. I don't want to shoot anybody, but he wants to shoot me, Mike. He said it.
Yeah.
I mean, when do I take them at their word? That's all. It's kind of a, so I just hope people out there might, if you run into these people, let them know how you feel, that they want to kill you. And I was thinking about, like, the fact that Trump, it appears he's lost and he's losing. And I really feel bad because the betrayal, you're seeing everybody's like, it's like they're all rats leaving the ship, Ellen Chow, Mike Pence. Bill Barr said he betrayed the country. Bill Barr actually said that. I mean, and I think that I like that movie Braveheart, when he loses that battle and then he goes around and he gets even with all them people that betrayed him. And I'm not saying, like, go hit people in the head with a mace or anything. But I think, I really don't take betrayal well. And you're really seeing a lot of it. And these rats, these rhinos, these neocons, these the Republican Party has just become the corporate internationalist party again. They basically thrown the Trumpians out. And they've been itching to do that since Trump took it over. I don't know what the strategy is now. I don't know if we should bother taking. I'm almost thinking might have better luck joining with the Bernie brothers and taking over the Democratic Party because. We could, it's almost better to destroy the Republican Party so it never exists again, to make an example out of them, because that's the power that Trump has now, and the Trumpians have to destroy, like Kelly Loeffler and Purdue. The Trumpians sat on their hands; they lost. Bye, So that's I'm basically, my theory now is to, like, punish the betrayers. To get vengeance on the betrayers. And I don't mean like in Braveheart hitting them in the head with a mace. I mean like destroying the party, never having another Republican in office again. So they'll never do that to their base again. They'll never do that to nationalist and populist again. We have to make an example out of the Republican Party. We have to make an example out of the Supreme Court. We have to make an example out of the media. But we're not going away. They have kicked a hornet's nest.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's right.
It's just started.
What happened in Washington, not the attack on the Capitol building because that was staged, but the sheer volume of people who showed up. Plus, there were parallel demonstrations in several other state capitals. And I'm sure it's got the deep state and their pet politicians absolutely panicked. And I'm just concerned what they're going to do now to try and consolidate their hold on power. And that ordinary Americans who were not even part of the debate are going to suffer for it.
Well, I mean, the people are awake. That's the one, the worst thing that could have happened was Biden winning the election honestly. And the best thing was Trump winning the election honestly. Trump won in a landslide, and they stole the election.
Yes,
so
they did. And they botched it because everybody saw what they did.
80 million Americans know this election was stolen, that Biden is a usurper. And we have our own little army now.
No, it's the polls are showing half of Americans know the election was rigged. That's about 150 million.
Yeah, but 80 million of the voters who voted for Trump, I would say maybe 1 million of them might not know that it was stolen. And there's a lot of Democrats that know it was stolen too. Anybody that
30%.
can speak for themselves or has honor, except for maybe Dustin, who's really at the bottom of my list.
Let's not get personal here. Let's leave Dustin alone.
I don't like the term conspiracy theorist, Mike. I think it's rude to people. I've been called it a lot because of my search for the truth as far as 9/11, and so it's a kind of a touchy subject with me. And that's all. And I'd like to compliment Paul on New Jersey on his talk 2 days ago about genetics. And I do agree with him. It's not the Nazis that are pushing this genetic stuff. It's the Marxists. And he was right, and then Mark from North Carolina was wrong. So I have to say that Paul was right on that one. I'll give him credit.
Okay.
Yeah. So otherwise, I'm glad that witch Kelly Loeffler is getting thrown out. Mitch McConnell put her in just to appease the women vote and to modernize and I mean, what a rotten person, like selling her stocks when she found out about COVID. Even her own basketball team didn't want to vote for her. And then it's a rat move saying she was going to support the challenge. And then today, because of the riots, what do the riots have to do with whether or not she's going to challenge cheating? These Republicans, that is why, we have to destroy the Republican Party. People like her and Mitch McConnell.
We have to have another party or parties out there as well, because, we don't want to be a one-party nation like the former Soviet Union, although we do seem to be headed that way.
Well, we'll destroy the Republican Party and become the new Republican Party.
Okay.
The only way you got to. It's like when I was a union member, when Bill Clinton passed NAFTA, and I was infuriated. And I was telling the people in the union, they still supported him the next election. I said, the only way for the unions to get any power again is to destroy Bill Clinton and make an example out of him. But the unions never did. They let him get away with it. And look how powerless unions are now, except for maybe government workers' unions. But the unions are gone because they never stood up. They let themselves get screwed over by their so-called friends. Well, that happened to us again by the Republicans. You can't let that happen. You have to destroy the people that betray you, period. And the Republican Party has betrayed the Trumpians. Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, good. Your timing is perfect. We got to take a break for commercials.
Okay,
we got more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Andrea in Oklahoma. Andrea, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind today?
Yes. Once you have a bully and they get by with whatever acts they pull, they only get worse. They never stop being a bully. Now, it seems that, your neighbors might have voted for Biden, but you don't want to go after anybody like that. You want to go after the head of the snake. And it's curious that Pence sold, it wasn't just that he sold out Trump. He sold all of America that voted for Trump out. And, it's like, who paid him off? What was the deal? Where's the money trail? Is it coming from the corporations in our country? Is it coming outside the country? This is important information, because those are the things that you want to go after. And then you have everybody's attached at the hip, these judges and everybody. They were sold out. Who's selling them out? Are they being threatened? Are they taking a big bribe? And the other one is the media. Because if all of a sudden you went to watch the news and ABC, CBS, CNN, Fox, all of them weren't there on the TV, which all my relatives, I've tried to push them or turn them in the direction of Republic Broadcasting. No, they believe in the media that's on the TV. And it's like, I can't seem to get through to them. But if anything is going to be, you're going to go after, is take the media down off the TV, because everybody goes to the boob tube and believes it. And that's my comment. I mean, you need to go after the head of the snake. The Republicans, I don't even know where that guy's coming from. We're up against the Democrats that's not following any rules. If it was me or you or anybody else, we have to follow the rules. They have not followed any rules.
No, they haven't.
Well, ever since, for the last 4 years, ever since they've been ranting and making up lies as they go along about Trump. I don't even understand why there's a Democrat out there that's following that group. And I don't even if they're a dead dog yellow Democrat, how could you follow a party that's that ruthless and that, they're just absolutely have no rules, and they expect everybody else to abide by them. That is so wrong. It's like if you had a football game and one side didn't follow any rules and they just bombed the other team, would you, that's just as bad as it is right there in front of you. They don't follow rules. They're corrupt. They're setting people's businesses afire. They're stabbing innocent people in the back. I mean, if any party needs to be dismissed and say, go away, cease and desist. I mean, there is an independent party out there that nobody mentions, which I became a part of. I really think it's time to take a look at who's causing trouble and where is all this stuff coming from. If it's George Soros, which we know that he's a big part of all that.
He's a big part of it, yes.
We need to go after those kind of people. They have a home. They have to go there at some point in place. That's it. I've laid enough seeds out there for somebody to look at that and think about. Put it in your pipes and smoke on it a little bit.
Okay.
But something's got to be done right away, quick, because the bully's not going to stop. They're just going to get worse and worse. And
yeah,
worse.
The only way you stop the bully is you have to poke them in the nose.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. We're coming up on another break. We've got callers on the line, but rather than start a call and interrupt it here, a little more news from the world of computers. Apparently, Microsoft is planning sweeping design changes to Windows 10 to show that Windows is back. Personally, I would be a lot happier if they were putting this effort into like speeding Windows 10 up. No, their ideas, they're going to put a new coat of lipstick on that particular pig here. But they've put out job postings, for the job description appears to support reports that the Windows 10 20H2 update will be as major as reported, with plans at Microsoft to tell the world that Windows is back. So that it is marketing stuff here entirely. Okay, and let's see, we're coming up on the commercial break right now, so stay tuned. We got more callers waiting on the line, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Mike in California. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, good news and bad news. So the bad news is, well, you can see it right now, where the 45%, they did a poll, I think, it was 45% of Republicans support going into the Capitol.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and a lot of them don't. But look who doesn't. It's all the mainstream talking heads, the people you can't trust. And let's face it, Tucker Carlson is not based. He comes from this, what is it, what's that family, the Swanson family or whatever, the meat, what is the frozen foods family. He's already loaded. And he has, he tried to get into the CIA, but they wouldn't take him. And then, wasn't his dad in the CIA? I forget.
I really don't know his background all that well.
Never forget, Tucker Carlson said it was blasphemous to question who did 9/11. Well, I mean, we know what the dancing Israelis are.
Yes.
I just do not trust him. And he's had really good takes recently. But no, I'm not going to trust that guy. And all the people, like, the other guys you can't trust, like Glenn Beck and everybody, I don't even know how people can listen to Glenn Beck and listen to you and then go back to Glenn Beck, because those guys are so fake. All of them are condemning it. But the real populace, the people who kind of gave the Republican Party one last chance and said, okay, I'm going to hold my nose, vote for Trump because I like what he's saying and I like him too. And they voted for the guy, and he didn't deliver anything because, one, the Republican Party wouldn't let him because they're never going to change. And as soon as he got in there, you saw, he had the House, the Congress, everything, and he did nothing besides corporate tax cuts. He did that. But,
yes,
what they do. And then he hasn't done nothing. Well, they're never going to let him do that. And really, it is a uniparty. Now, the good news I have for you guys is that the Democrats, I don't think they're going to get everything they want. They're not going to get, got to put your Zog thinking cap on. what do they want? Okay, they want to censor us and everything, and they're going to get that.
Yes, they're going to do that.
Are they going to get are they going to get like Medicare for all and like, you know, like the Jimmy Dore types that actually like free speech? You know, they're not going to get that. So they're going to be pissed off because now they have the House, and they're going to say, hey, wait a second, we voted for you guys, and we got nothing. You know, they're going to get 4 years of monitoring the situation, just like we got. And after 2 years, you know, Jimmy Dore already has a huge following, and those people are already very pissed because they know, they saw who Biden picked. They saw the corporate shows that he's already put in his cabinet, and they know they're going to get screwed. So you're going to have a huge mass of people really angry. Us, the populist part of the Republican Party that's never voting for them again. There's another poll. This is not a very accurate poll, but cat turd on Twitter. I know, very, very just off the cuff kind of thing. But it was like 90% of those people were never, I think 85% were never voting for the Republican Party again. And it's probably more like 50%. But that's enough to destroy the GOP. The
GOP may have self-destructed, but on the other hand, I mean, the corporate media spin that we're getting is they're trying to basically tarnish the entire Republican Party, including Republican voters. And I do question that poll that said 45% of Republicans agreed with the violence, because most Republicans I know, you know, we deplore the violence, even those people who don't realize it was a false flag.
Well, but look, I mean, we got a whole summer of no law and order. All we got was tweets from Trump, law and order, and people were burning down everything. There are hypocritical situations for every single time that they tried to burn down some federal building in Portland. They're breaking windows there, and they even killed a guy. It's 1,000 times worse what happened this whole summer. And now we're supposed to, you know, have all this respect for the same government? Forget it. That went out the window. They have no respect for us. We shouldn't have any for them. Now,
I agree. It's an illegitimate election, and it's an illegitimate government.
I'm going to clutch my pearls for those guys? I don't think so. So, yeah, I'm done with it. Good. I'm glad they did that. But it would be better in the future if there was some kind of like economic boycott that we could do. And I don't know if there is. You know, a lot of public Republicans that still have Netflix, you know, with all the disgusting stuff like cuties going on. And that was, I didn't see it, but it just sounded sick. Oh, yeah. It's pretty bad. I never seen it, but I saw the still of them making fun of the USS Liberty. And that's actually a still frame from the cartoon, by the way. However, there's going to be so many people that are never voting for the GOP, so what are they going to do? Are they going to make another populist party? And I really hope Trump is not in charge of that party, but if we can fraction it off, we have to get all new shills. So like maybe a few genuine people will actually make it in there. I don't know. How does the GOP survive that?
I don't know, and as I said earlier in the show, I fear that we're heading to be a one-party nation like the former Soviet Union, and that's a bad thing, or at least that's the way I was raised.
Right, but think of the left too. They don't get what they want in these 4 years, and they're only going to get the corporate stuff. A lot of I guess more populist left, I guess you could call it. They're not going to get what they want. Like the Bernie people that got burned.
Yes.
That actually voted for Trump, and some of the other Bernie people that are just like, oh, screw it, let the system collapse. Those people.
I'm one of those. I hope the whole system just falls apart and we can restart a new country. Because I don't want to see a civil war in the streets of America.
Yeah, I mean, if it ends Zionism, I'm okay with it. But yeah. All right, Mike. Well, I think that's a white pill. I think you might get another party, and it's just going to be harder for them to control it. And I don't know. The charade, the the act or whatever that we have two parties and we had to go pretend like we're the democracy every 4 years or whatever. People are so. How can anyone be proud of it? Like, even this country right now, it's who gets excited for that? I mean, it's disgusting, frankly. If I saw like all the stuff that we did, that was another country, I'd be like, oh my God, I hope something horrible. I don't want anything to do with them. It's so, I can't explain it in just one phone call, but I mean, all this degenerate stuff, it comes from us.
Yes.
And, you know, and that's a lot of it's not really us, if you know what I mean, like the guys who make cuties and stuff, but other people, they're not going to dig that deep. Some of them know, but not all of them. And yeah, we got to do, we can't vote for the GOP. That's the thing. Let it die. What do we got to lose? They're never going to have our back. Let the GOP die, and we make a new party. And you know what? If they never win again, so what? And we're already screwed either way with the GOP. If you saw how they threw everyone under the bus, if we do that, and maybe some of the independents. I mean, the largest block of voters is the people that don't vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we can get some of them, half of them, we're good. And then we get maybe 20% of the pissed off Democrats. You know, hey, we could really have a new party if the deep state will let us.
Well, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. I think the deep state would be very happy with a one-party nation. You know, I think we're on the verge of a true communist revolution in this country. Again, I think that's a bad thing. Anyway, listen, we got a bunch of callers waiting on the line. We're getting close to the show. Thank you for the call, and we're going to switch over to Daniel in North Dakota. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How are you this evening?
I'm fine this evening. Thank you.
Good. Hey, you know, there's a lot of talk about the different parties and all of that tonight, and so that's what prompted me to call. I started a website, you know, back during the Ron Paul era, and it was after joining the Campaign for Liberty, and they didn't want to talk about 9/11 or any of the conspiracy type of stuff.
Okay.
I even tried to join the Constitution Party at one point, and they didn't want to talk about any of the deeper truth. So I started my own party, and it's called the Anti-Deep State Party, and you can find that antideepstateparty.com if anybody's interested. Checking out some of the things that we do. But I just wanted to thank you guys from RBN. You know, a lot of your listeners have been joining social1776.com, and it's been pretty cool. And I just thank you guys all for the support, and I appreciate it. But
all right,
Mike,
well, thank you very much.
Again, I just want to compliment you on your program here. So, and that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, thank you very much for the phone call here, and we're going to go to Michael in Northern California. Hello, Michael. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mr. Rivero. Pleasure to speak with you today.
Thank you.
So, after watching Representative Gates in his presentation up on the House today, and in question of what, I don't know if you got to see it, but what Congressman Connor Lamb did last night when he called the opposition liars after his fellow Pennsylvania representatives who put up the protest to the vote for the state of Pennsylvania pretty much laid it out. And they went through and they said, hey, this is what our state says. And then Connor Lamb, their fellow Pennsylvania representative, gets on and calls them liars. And this was about 3:30, about 3:45 in the morning, I believe, Eastern time. So this was deep into this morning.
Yes.
But a little bit after that, the House of Representatives almost broke out in fisticuffs because there were a lot of upset congressmen that these words were being exchanged back and forth. And it's kind of like what people have been talking about on the program today about this level of animosity that is going on between all these different factions, and things are just breaking up. It's like Mike, the previous caller just called in. I mean, there's people in that Jimmy Dore camp that are, I mean, they're looking for anything. And unfortunately, what they're looking for, they're being drawn out and drawn into some Marxist doctrine. And it's pretty scary, some of the people that Jimmy Dore has had on his program. And I don't want to get off into these other celebrities that are out there trying to do something like you, but they do not have the background for it. They don't know what they're talking about half the time. At least Jimmy Dore reached out to Ron Paul and had him on one time, but that's it. You know, after that, let's not go that route. So they're not helping anywhere, and anybody for that matter when it comes down to it. The last thing I would like to say is I think it's official. We now have a new classification of American politicians and bureaucrats. And this is based upon one of the earlier callers today. And I think this new term is red dot Democrats and red dot Republicans and red dot bureaucrats. These people are in the crosshairs of America at this point. And people are upset. I can see why. After seeing some of the footage of the barricades being brought down, seeing the footage of a Capitol Police leading somebody up a stairwell to the balcony, you know, he didn't stop those people. And, you know, he might have been overwhelmed, but you know what? Still, you can call for backup and just hold them back, whatever you need to do. And those guys that he led up the stairwell, they weren't carrying anything to threaten them with. They didn't have any weapons in their hand. And, you know, all the reports that we hear about armed protesters and some of that talk we've heard from the Democrats today, that's completely crazy, because if they were armed protesters, it probably would have been more bloodshed than there actually was.
If there were armed protesters, they'd still be fighting.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But, yeah, that's pretty much it, Michael. I think there is a new term out there, red dot Democrats and red dot Republicans, and people are going to be looking to eliminate them or exile them from the country at any cost at this point. It's real unfortunate.
Scary. That's very, very scary.
And see things the way. Yeah, it is very scary. And it's unfortunate when you have somebody like Connor Lamb just flaming the flame, you know, just flaming the fire here, you know, stoking the fire, making it even worse than it already is. And then the following, after they get through and they win the vote, then they come out later on today after probably either not getting any sleep or getting just a little bit of sleep, saying, hey, we're going to impeach Trump. That's what they want to do with our time. Ridiculous.
Yes. Well, they want Trump out of there because he's still got 2 weeks left as president, and at this point, he's probably capable of anything.
Yeah, that's true. He might be capable of anything, but what that anything is, I don't think is as nefarious as it would be with any other type of career politician that we've seen before in the White House.
All right. Well, listen, Paul, thank you very much for the phone call. And I'm sorry, Michael, thank you for the phone call. We're going to switch to Paul in New Jersey. And Paul, I'm going to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
You know, Michael, I got to admit, I loved watching the videos of what happened yesterday, and I'm going to be reviewing them tonight in my repose.
Okay.
But, you know, to watch these governmental officials all outraged, you know, they sat there the past year and allowed BLM and Antifa to just travel and run rampant throughout the country the past 8 months, and they said very little about that. But notice when one of their buildings gets violated, right, at their workplace, when you see our servants, they need, and notice they need walls to hide behind.
Yes.
So they can hide their crimes. So that's why they don't like it when you're storming into our building and trying to have a peaceful discussion with criminal politicians who disregard the rights of the people and the rights of the people to have a sacrosanct vote, and that our vote is pure and untainted.
Okay, we got to take a break for commercials, Paul, and we'll be right back after these few words. All right, welcome back to our show here. We're going to try and get through some more phone calls before the end of the program. Joe in California, what's on your mind tonight?
Hello, Mike. I'd like to promote, I'll be quick, I'd like to promote my new website.
Yes.
Chuck Schumer is a treacherous, traitorous, lying scumbag.com.
That sounds good, but it's kind of hard to type without a mistake there. There's a lot of times I wish I'd chosen a shorter name. I know you're joking. I know you're joking here.
I'm ashamed of this country, as your previous callers have said. Our chief exports have become bombs and gay pride parades.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But,
and
Mike, none of this is going to change. None of this is going to change until we get back a citizen legislature.
Yes.
As long as we have these career politicians who are giving themselves raises, who are in the pockets of the oligarchs and the special interests, things are never going to change. I've gotten to the point where I'm telling my family that things aren't going to change until the money runs out. Until the money runs out and the dollar becomes worthless, then you'll start seeing the citizenry collectively wake up, and you'll see the illegals turn their heels and exit.
Yes.
I'm that pessimistic. I really believe it's not going to change until the money runs out.
Yes.
And as far as the claim that the Trump people are terrorists, the real terrorists are sitting in the Congress, because these people are bombing and sanctioning. I've been saying this for years. They're bombing and sanctioning the world, killing hundreds of thousands, if not millions. We recall Madeleine Albright's statement about the 500,000 children in Iraq. That was well worth the price in order to contain Saddam. So these people are the real terrorists, the people who are our, quote, representatives. I mean, it's gotten so bad that we have George W. Bush, man whose pants are dripping with blood, giving lectures, and he's being lionized by the media. That's how bad it's gotten in this country.
Yes.
That's all I have to say. Thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you. Switching over to Brother Glover in Virginia. What's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, Mike. Who was that guy he just referenced that's being lionized?
George Bush.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, plus you got all these other guys, these deep staters that are contributors on CNN, talking heads like Brennan and Clapper. And, I mean, here in not far from where I'm at, James Comey's got him a cushy job at William and Mary lecturing people. But, yeah, you remember that song by Led Zeppelin, Dazed and Confused?
Yes, I remember that one.
That should be someone suggests that for our new national anthem. Although we might be dazed, but we're not confused because we know what's going on, and we know that the election was stolen. But Georgia, I'll try to call in tomorrow.
Yeah, please do, because there's the music. We're at the end of the program. My apologies to the other people waiting on hold that we didn't get to you. John Stadmiller is still on the road back from Washington, D.C., so Steve Elkins is taking his microphone tonight. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please, please, please donate, and a big thank you to those of you who did. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Aloha, America.